Drift is easy. Stewardship is earned. Growing up, I remember something very clearly. I had my parents watching over me, guiding me, protecting me. But no one ever sat me down and explained just how demanding life really is. No one told me that if you're not careful, the world will eventually start telling you who you are supposed to become. And the world does not shape you into who you are meant to be. It shapes you into someone who simply knows how to survive. I remember nights, sitting alone in the dark room, asking myself questions that many people never say out loud. What did I miss? Because something inside of me felt out of place, not broken, not defeated, just like I didn't belong in this life I was living. Sure, from the outside, things looked good. Success was there. Progress was there. The kind of things people point at and say, see, you're doing it right. You're doing great. But inside myself, something was decaying because success without alignment does not bring peace. It brings noise. I could have blamed people. I could have blamed circumstances, my surroundings. I could have blamed my past. And trust me, there were moments when that would have been the easiest thing to do. There were nights I called friends, hoping someone can explain what I was feeling or at least get distracted. But the truth is, slowly, it became clear to me this was not something anyone else could solve for me. Not because people didn't care, but because this was something I had to face alone. And that realization was uncomfortable. It really hurt me because my identity at that time was tied to my situation. If things were going well, I felt valuable. If things were falling apart, I felt like I was falling apart too. But the deeper truth eventually revealed itself. My shortcomings, my faults, even my failures weren't proof of anything. They were not proof that I was broken. They were symptoms of something else, a stolen identity, an identity that the world quietly replaces with survival, an identity that slowly convinces you to measure your worth by money, status, approval, or success. But none of those things can fill what they were never designed to fill. Because our identity was never meant to be an end in itself. It was meant to be used for service, used for responsibility, used for something bigger than just comfort. And that realization changed something inside of me. I began to understand that life was never about chasing validation. It was about stewardship, about taking responsibility for what was entrusted to me. And that's why I share this conversation on this podcast. Because once upon a time, I was searching for an answer to, and let me be clear about something. My life is still not perfect. I still struggle. I still have my shortcomings. I still have my doubts. I still have moments where doubt tries to creep in. But I know something today that I didn't know back then. You cannot change who you are meant to be by letting your current circumstance define who you are. You move forward by doing something much harder, by letting go of what's behind you and pressing toward what's ahead of you, by taking every negative thought, every lie, every doubt, and holding it captive, rejecting the seeds that try to plant themselves in your mind, in your heart, in your soul. Because the moment you realize your life was entrusted to you, everything changes. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Now, maybe you've never sat alone in a dark room asking yourself those same questions, but if you're honest, you have probably felt something similar. That quiet tension inside you, that heartache, the feeling that your life is supposed to mean something more than just surviving the week, more than just paying bills, more than chasing approval, more than chasing success, more than staying busy enough so you never have to ask deeper questions. Because the truth is, most people aren't actually confused about their lives. They are avoiding ownership of them, and the world encourages that. The world tells you, just go with the flow. Things will figure themselves out. Something will open eventually. Something's got to give. We have all heard this type of comments. But drifting through life does not lead to clarity. It leads to distance. Distance between who you are and who you were meant to become. And that distance slowly grows until one day you wake up and realize something so uncomfortable. You didn't lose your direction. You just never claimed responsibility for it. And that's where the real shift begins. Because the moment you accept one simple truth, everything changes. Your life was entrusted to you. Your time, your gifts, your mind, your influence. None of it was given to you so you could drift. It was given to you so you could build something with it. And once you realize that, the question changes. You stop asking, what should happen to me? And you start asking, what am I responsible for doing with what I have been given? That's stewardship. That is stewardship. And stewardship is not comfortable. It's demanding because it refuses to let you hide behind circumstances, excuses, or even your past. It asks a much harder question. Let's take this one step further, because if you're still listening to this conversation right now, there's a good chance something inside of you is already resonating. Not everyone listens to conversations like this. Most people do not want to examine their own life closely. Most people are comfortable drifting. But the people who feel uncomfortable with drifting, the people who feel a quiet weight about how their life unfolds, that heaviness inside of you, those people are different. Not better, but different. Because they recognize something most ignore. Their life is not random. It has been entrusted. And when something is entrusted to you, you don't treat it casually. You protect it. You develop it. You multiply it. That is stewardship. And if that word resonates with you, then this podcast is not just entertainment. It's a reminder. A reminder that you are not here just to survive your years. You are here to build something with them. Because the people who drift through life and the people who steward their life live in the same world. They breathe the same air. They face the same circumstances. They experience the same struggles. The difference isn't in the opportunity. The difference is in the ownership. One group waits for life to tell them who they are. The other group decides what responsibility they will carry. What do they have to do to change things? So let's bring this down to something personal. Not theory. not theoretical, not philosophical, but personal. Because if stewardship is real, then it has to show up in how you live today. So tonight I want you to ask yourself one honest question. Not a complicated one, just one honest question. What part of my life is asking for responsibility that I keep postponing? Maybe it's your discipline. Maybe it's your health. Maybe it's your finances. Maybe it's a decision you've been avoiding. Maybe it's a version of yourself you know you are capable of becoming, but you're scared. But you keep telling yourself you'll start later. But stewardship does not begin when life becomes convenient. It begins the moment you stop pretending that later is guaranteed, because the truth is, most people do not lose their potential in a dramatic way. They lose it quietly, by delaying responsibility, by postponing decisions, by convincing themselves that drift is harmless, until one day they look back and realize something painful. The life they were supposed to build was waiting for them to claim it. It was there all along, and they never took charge of it. Before we close today, let me leave you with one final thought. If you stayed with me through this conversation, there's a reason. Because something inside you recognizes what we talked about today. Not everyone feels the weight of their life. Not everyone feels responsible for what they do with their time, their potential. Most people are comfortable drifting. But the people who listen to the conversation like this, the people who feel uncomfortable living on autopilot day after day, those people are different. They are not passengers, they're pilots. People who understand that life does not drift into meaning. It is stirred there. And if you're someone who believes action matters more than comfort, then you already know what to do. Leaders do not just hear truth, they move it forward. Because somewhere out there, tonight, someone's laying awake asking the same question you once asked, wondering if they're behind, wondering if they missed something, wondering if their life is supposed to mean more than this. And sometimes, all it takes is the right voice at the right moment to remind someone that their life was entrusted to them. This podcast grows one way: when people who believe in truth move it forward. Not for numbers, not for attention, but because clarity deserves to travel. So if today's conversation meant something to you, send this episode to the person who might need strength, direction, or clarity right now. Just one. Because that's how legacy moves. Not through algorithms, not through marketing, but voice to voice. One person choosing not to stay silent about what matters. If this conversation sharpened you today, follow the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or whatever platform you listen to us on. And if you can, please leave us a review. This helps us greatly. That's how this message reaches the people who are still searching. This is the Eminence Legacy Podcast. And remember, together, let's rise to our eminence. Catch you in the next one.